After Taylor Schabusiness, or Taylor Coronado, would sporadically attack her lawyer and she would be appointed a new lawyer, investigators and police would uncover that Taylor had an infatuation with the serial schmiller Jeffrey Dahmer. And considering the level of brutality that her crimes that she committed involved, it should be no surprise that she had such an infatuation with a serial schmiller that took time cutting apart bodies and eating them and keeping them in the freezer. It's there before the courts would actually proceed with their proceeding that they would actually go to see if Taylor Coronado was actually fit to stand trial for the unaliving and murder of her on-again, off-again boyfriend, Schabusiness. Now, personally, I'm not really sure why they did not try Taylor Schabusiness for being mentally unfit for the courtrooms, considering the fact of her actions within the courtroom and considering the fact of what she had performed and done to Schabusiness, but I digress. Before that would happen, they would actually bring in, believe it or not, Taylor's father, Ontario Coronado, who we both know from the previous video, had been caught and was actually serving time for sexually assaulting and raping a 12, 13-year-old. He surprisingly enough would tell the courts that Taylor Schabusiness, was not the monster that everyone painted her out to be, and would actually blame that drugs were the main cause of what had led up to these actions. He would also go and claim that it was the system that had failed his daughter. I'm just going to speak personally on this, but I'm going to say from what I've received from this story, I personally believed it is actually himself that had failed his daughter, considering the fact of what we later found out about Ontario and that he was sexually assaulting a 12, 13-year-old, and considering the fact that Taylor actually started having problems around 12 or 13 after the unaliving of her mother. It should be fair to assume that his actions led up to what Taylor eventually became. They would bring in a psychiatrist to see if Taylor was actually fit to stand trial, and unfortunately for Taylor, they would actually say, the psychiatrist, would tell the courts that he did not believe that Taylor Schabusiness was not well, and believed that, there wasn't a pattern to prove that she was not well. I'm just going to say this personally, but if a woman decides to smoke a drug and from that drug decide that they're going to asphyxiate their boyfriend, and once they've unalived them, decide it's a great idea to cut up their body parts, while also not only cutting up their body parts, but performing sexual acts on this actual corpse, cuddling with an actual corpse, and bathing with the blood of this person, and actually taking the foot and leg, stuffing it into a crock-pot box to keep as a trophy. Now, also adding on to the fact that she had made statements and looked up searches of Jeffrey Dahmer walking into the courtroom all sexy, and was actually looking at images on her search bar, Jeffrey Dahmer's butt. From those two things, I would have to say would show that this woman is unwell. And so they would actually proceed with the trial. It is said that as they were going through all of the evidence and the findings of the unaliving of Schabusiness, it said that during this entire time, during the trial, that Taylor could be seen in her chair rocking back and forth and consistently looking over at the people in the trial, smirking, laughing, and just not acting like she had any empathy whatsoever. This actually did not help her during the trial at all. The courts would actually decide that she was by no means ever going to get any chance of parole whatsoever, and chances were that she was going to spend, like her idol Jeffrey Dahmer, the rest of her life behind bars. Several people would have the opportunity to speak on not just the decision, but just their thoughts on Taylor Schabusiness. One of those people would include Shad Therian's uncle, Kelly Therian, to where he would basically tell the courts and Taylor that by no means what you did, there's no excuse for what you have done, regardless what you have been through or regardless of what drugs you're on, there's no excuse to explain what you had did. And he would describe it as shit business, and he would also go and tell Taylor that that pretty much describes her in a nutshell, shit business. He would also go into further detail and actually tell Taylor Schabusiness that he actually prayed every single day that she would end up and have the same end result as her idol Jeffrey Dahmer. The rest of the people sitting in the courtroom would actually respond to these statements by actually standing up and applauding Kelly Therian for his statements. And on September 26, 2023, they would actually charge Taylor Coronado Schabusiness life without the possibility of parole. And I'd have to say, I think they made the right decision considering how brutal her crimes were. I do not believe she should be left outside or have any chance of freedom, considering she did not give her friend Shad Therian any mercy or a chance at life whatsoever. People can blame it on drugs, you can blame it on a lot of things, and I'm not going to go and say that I do not believe that Taylor Schabusiness did not live a hard life. I'm not going to go and say that whatsoever. I truly feel horrible about what she had went through, and even though it had not been confirmed, I truly believe her father had, and in fact, abused Taylor Schabusiness. It just makes more sense. Especially, and as I said, none of this has ever been confirmed. But I truly believe that around the time that Taylor Coronado was actually turning 12 or 13, which is around the time that her mom started heavily drinking, and when you take the unaliving of her mom, I truly believe Taylor's mom knew about what was going on and started drinking as a way to hide or mask what she was feeling about it. And I believe because of the unaliving of her mom and because of the fact that her father was abusing her, left her down or led her down the road that she sadly took. And it's so sad that she did not receive the help that she needed, that she could have gotten. A lot of this stuff could have been prevented at the end of the day, and that's what's really truly tragic about this. That is what's truly tragic about Taylor Coronado and Shad Therian is, was it the drugs? Yes. Was it all the drugs? No. The drugs is a terrible thing, but the other stuff, something could have happened. Something could have prevented it. And that is really what is truly tragic. I do empathize for Taylor and all of the horrible things that she did. And I can understand why she went down the path that she did. But understanding why she went down the path that she did does not mean you condone the actions you took. So, with that being said, I think the courts made the right decision, and I hope that while in prison, Taylor gets the help that she so desperately needs so that she can actually take time to heal from all the stuff that's happened to her in her past. So that was my little rant, and y'all have a good day.